Toronto Southeast.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Premier advised this House that the United States is now our biggest competitor in exporting oil. This isn't news to the Progressive Conservatives. We were well aware that in 2013 the United States produced more oil than Saudi Arabia. Last week, the Premier said, quoting from Hansard, that her position was that the Keystone Pipeline was simply going to be another mechanism to sell to the very market which is now our competitor. So this wasn't necessarily in our best interest. Mr. Speaker, that couldn't be further from the truth. To the Energy Minister, isn't it even more important to make sure that we get as many pipelines to Tidewater so that we can make sure that the United States doesn't take up our market share?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. It's absolutely imperative that we get pipelines both east and west, and we to get our products to market. And we also need to go beyond our competitor, who is the U.S., and develop markets in all parts of the world, and continue to move our product to anywhere that will buy it.
First supplemental.
Given that the previous government laid the foundation for pipelines to Tidewater in all directions, and given that this government is now expressing a desire to have a pipeline or two, which is, by the way, in contradiction to your election platform, to the same minister, is your department actively exploring the proposal to build a pipeline through northern Canada to access the Trans-Alaska Pipeline to reach port on the Pacific?
Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, the premise of that question is absurd. The previous government had, for decades, where it was unable to get a pipeline built in any direction. Quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, where our government has already made much progress is primarily, first and foremost, through the Climate Leadership Plan, where I can tell you that Alberta is taking real action on the climate, as opposed to the opposition parties that would prefer that we just talk about doing things yet fail to implement any meaningful steps. Our Climate Leadership Plan is giving us the social license to get pipelines built in all directions, Mr. Speaker.
Your counterparts all over the country, NDP, blocked everything we tried to put forward. And given that in opposition, the NDP vilified Alberta corporations as corporate welfare recipients, not paying their fair share and not diversifying the economy, and given that the PC government had strong partnerships with companies such as Nova, Agrium, Northwest Upgrader and more, today's announcement on the Resource Diversification Council is fantastic news, and it shows the quality of these corporations. To the Minister of Energy, how can these companies trust that you'll have their back when that hasn't always been politically convenient for you?
Minister of Energy.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for acknowledging that important group that made their announcement today. I am spending lots of time in developing relationships and working with industry, as we've committed, to see how we can work with them to best create policy, best create messaging that will work together to create all the important business and keep some of the resources in Alberta and diversify our economy here rather than shipping raw product always out.